Okay, so we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm here with Language Learner and with Exit, and maybe maybe Constantine will come. I don't know. I don't know. So, how are you doing, Language Learner?
Well, I'm awake for fun reasons at 3 in the morning.
I Yep,
Um, we're just getting bombed again. It's drones.
no big deal.
It's a number of them. Yeah, there was a couple booms. I'm kind of surprised that they're getting in the city. But I think I heard an air defense pop off because I had a couple, three small rocket take off, and then a couple seconds boom, boom, boom. So we've been pretty lucky lately. It's been a little while, so it's I don't know. There are worse things.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's the waking up part that sucks the most out of it all at
yeah,
this point.
I bet. It's gets pretty old, I imagine. Um,
I'd, I'd rather not be bombed if it's all the same to you.
yeah. So, are were these launched in like across the Azov Sea, the Sea of Azov?
To my knowledge, there was a couple launches. There
Okay.
was at least a couple that went to Odessa. I believe those were the first. There was also a set of these that spun. I think some of them might have been launched from Belarus. I believe that that's still used as a platform. And then they went towards Zhytomyr and then spun around. And then a couple of them dove for the city here. So, and I know there's allegedly been at least one hit down in Odessa. We'll see in the morning. I am not seeing anything where I'm at, somewhere in Kiev. So, aside from debris, I know there's been a few blasts and setting off car alarms elsewhere in the city. So hopefully everything gets intercepted. There was a rumor I heard from the last time that they were using the drones to sort of circle around Kiev to try and expose air defenses and then throw more things at the city with the idea that these routes are pre-programmed. So if they set this large sort of circular spin around Kiev, they can try and absorb a missile. They still cost much less than the missile used to intercept them. And then secondarily, if they don't get intercepted, then they make a dive. We'll see how that ends up being. But I don't know. It's just shaheeds, frankly. At this point, if it's not a Kinzhal, what the fuck? I say that with some glibness because there's a patriot system in this city. Otherwise, I would be much less much less cavalier.
Yeah. And yesterday they hit Kharkiv. They hit a sports center and a school, I think. And
I think a hospital. I mean, that was a Kherson. That was Kherson. They shelled the
yeah,
hospital, and it's a
Kherson.
shame. They
They
killed the dude like a day after his internship, which is rough.
Yeah, I marked this hospital. I think this was the right hospital. It's like a okay. So you know how Ukraine has a lot of towns with the exact same name? Did you know they also have a lot of hospitals with the exact same name?
So it's funny you mention that because they have hospitals named after towns that they're not actually in. An example is there's a hospital in Kiev called the Irpin. I think it's like Irpin City Hospital. And I know of a soldier who had fought in Irpin, and as a consequence of that, has sworn to never go back there because he was part of the spearhead, and it was a whole big thing. At which point he was wounded and ended up in the Irpin City Hospital. And when he got told that they just told him, "Oh, you're being moved to Irpin." He like threw a fit in the hospital. He's like, "There's zero chance you're sending me there. Absolutely not." They're like, "Whoa, whoa, buddy, you're going to keep." He's like, "No, I heard you. Don't lie to me. You said Irpin," and it was a whole big thing. Humorous for a couple minutes, apparently.
Yeah, I bet that's pretty funny. But yeah, there's apparently in Kherson there were I got the name of the hospital that was struck, and I typed it into Google, and there were three hospitals with that name, and I'm like, well, so I looked at all three hospitals and compared them to the photographs I have, and I picked the hospital that best matched the photograph because, frankly, none of them matched the photograph, and I wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised if there's a fourth hospital with that name in there, son. So I just got sick of
hey,
looking at hospitals after a while.
it just goes that way sometimes. They all look the same inside too.
I bet they do.
Yeah. Well, some of them do. But yeah, otherwise, I don't have most of the news I've heard lately that I can talk about has been political about the Ministry of Health, which there's a minor scandal involving collection of medical supplies that has now blossomed into a larger scandal, and hopefully, I'm honestly I'm less interested in someone getting fired and more interested in somebody learning their lesson. If that's something we could talk about.
Yeah, sure, if you want
Like
to.
not like they learn their lesson, like get in trouble, just like that we stop screwing ourselves. So long story short, it's not going to come as a surprise to everyone that there's an insufficient quality and quantity of emergency medical supplies or combat medical supplies in Ukraine, right? We've all talked about that's why we're always fundraising, for any organization for things like tourniquets and bandages and individual first aid kits, yada, yada, yada. So the Ministry of Health have, or some individual unit started this off by a bunch of medics from the unit said, hey, we got a bunch of tourniquets and our commanders issued them to us, and these are all Chinese, like obvious Chinese tourniquets, and they suck. At which point the commander said, nope, no, those are fine. Stop asking questions. You're all good. And the unit went, what the heck? No, like these are terrible. What's the issue? Why are you making a big deal over this? And apparently the commander said, well, these are donations and everything in the donation paperwork is fine. So they're all good. Stop asking questions. So they go up the food chain a little bit more, hit social media. Turns out that there's been essentially no quality control from donations to the Ministry of Health. It was just a matter of, have you received the item? Yes, here's a stamp that we received the item, shipment of 500 tourniquets, move them forward. Now, that got brought up into the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, at which point they did an audit, and the audit allegedly revealed that the armed forces of Ukraine have purchased a grand total of 0 individual first aid kits for the calendar year 2023, which is not great. So we will see how that plays out. I'm hopeful that sometimes people need to get embarrassed before they start making changes. And the first step is to realize that there's a problem, and this sounds like a pretty big problem. So it's a terrible thing that's happened. It's not the most surprising. Granted, there's been a lot of organizations producing these. I know Ukrainian soldiers do generally get issued IFACs of sometimes dubious quality, but issued nonetheless. So we shall see how that develops. Hopefully it lets people realize that you can't just send a dude to the front line with an AK armor, steel plates and a helmet and nothing else. But, I choose to remain positive. The lights are coming back on, so I'm guessing the air raid alert will be over in the near future.
Okay. Well, that's good news. I heard this is an anecdotal story that is somewhat related, and I don't understand this story. I don't really. Okay, so I think you'll see what I mean when I tell it. So basically, what happened is there was a scout in Marinka who was wounded, I believe, by artillery or a mortar. So he was getting shelled. He dove for cover, as you do. You lay down to make yourself the smallest possible target. A shell landed and peppered his feet with shrapnel. Which I guess if you were to get hit by an artillery shell, might be kind of the best way to do it. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, so basically he was unwounded from the ankle up, but his feet got really messed up. So he went to the hospital. They removed a bunch of shrapnel from his feet. He broke like every bone you can break. There's still metal in his feet, So he spent like 3 months or whatever in the hospital. recovering to a basic extent. And in that period, apparently, he ran out of drugs, painkillers at one point, or the hospital ran out of pain. This is the part I don't understand. So anyway, they ran out of painkillers at some point, and he had to have a volunteer bring him painkillers so that he could stay on painkillers. And now he's released from the hospital and at home, and I believe he also ran out of painkillers there. So from what I understand, he was asking for help a second time with the painkillers. But anyways, this is kind of an anecdotal
Being
thing.
asked for the exact same thing as of today.
What's that?
I absolutely believe that scenario because I'm being asked the exact same thing by but hopefully it's not the same soldier, but by another soldier, like as of the last 48 hours. Like there are issues with painkillers in certain, not even frontline hospitals, but larger city hospitals. I imagine we're probably both talking about the same city. Did he publicly say what city hospital it was? Can we talk about that? Or
I don't know what hospital it was, but I know what city it is.
Okay, okay, yeah, we're probably talking about the same city if it's the same thing. Where that's something I'm working. I was lucky enough to get a bunch of IV antibiotics, IV painkillers, not morphine or anything fun, just like essentially IV paracetamol and whatnot. And that's all going to some folks tomorrow. And then some oral painkillers. I actually had people bring over from the States naproxen or Aleve, which is really just a heavy NSAID, super ibuprofen, you can think of it. Yeah, it's not great. These guys aren't bleeding to death. I'm not worried about clotting factors. Oh, but it's bad for their stomach. I'm from America. I don't really care. We pop pills all the time. He can take, Tums. But it's...
Yeah, it's just
not good.
It's just a sort of anecdotal story that in a war-torn country that is, I mean, they are absolutely going through more pain medications than they ever were planning on. You know what I mean? So it makes sense that they would have supply issues, even in major hospitals. I can't even imagine what smaller hospitals are going through right now.
Smaller hospitals are not great. Pain management is an issue. It's part of the reason why, because frankly, I found almost that Ukrainians are less receptive to taking pills, but somehow almost more receptive to taking injections as far as medicines. Not getting an IV done, that people still don't like that. But I have actually seen a lot of people like, oh no, I need a shot. I need to get an intramuscular shot of whatever. Where in my experience in America, it's always been the opposite. People don't like needles, but yeah, I'll take a pill for that. Especially oral painkillers. I have really not seen those be as super popular. Things that like ibuprofen just don't really exist in the same like quantity. Like you can get a 10-pack, but they're relatively expensive compared to in America for that same amount of price as a 10-pack. You could go to Walmart and get like a 500-pack, one of those big old bottles. And to be perfectly blunt, I'm probably going to start having volunteers coming over from America bring some of those several hundred, pill bottles of acetaminophen or whatnot to just give out to soldiers because there's always aches and pains. Yeah. And to buy them here would be surprisingly expensive.
That is something that I never even considered. Yeah, well, that's interesting. Anyways, Exit's also here. How are you, Exit?
She's not here.
Oh, Exit left. Constantine's here. How are you, Constantine?
I'm okay, thank you. I have a lot of work, so I forgot about the stream. So when I noticed your message, I joined. So thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, yeah. So I was going to ask her about the boat thing today. I don't know anything about the boat thing today. So I guess we're just going to move on. Unless one of you want to talk about the boat thing today.
I don't even know which boat you're talking about. I have not
There we
heard
go.
the news.
So,
Something about a boat allegedly getting hit.
yeah, there's a boat thing.
Okay, is this like the third time the Vasily Baikov's been hit? I will believe it when I see it, and not a second before.
I feel the same way, which is why I don't pay attention to boat things. But she does pay attention to boat things. So, hey, but anyway, she's not here. Maybe she'll come back.
I think somebody just came back and channel. I don't know. My phone's acting up.
Hey, she's back. Exit. How are you? Okay. Anyways, she'll be.
Laska Budlaska.
She'll figure it
Information,
out.
please.
Okay, so a non-boat thing that we can talk about is the helicopter thing. So a few potatoes and a helicopter flew into Poland today, and that means it's World War III, right?
Certainly hope so.
So yeah, there's some Belarusian pilots flew right over the border, right here, and yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. Like this sort of thing happens all the time. Like whatever. But people are like freaking out about it. I don't really have much to say other than it's not a big deal. Another thing we could briefly talk about was the thing in Moscow, which I never. Oh yeah, the fire in Moscow, which I also don't care about. It was in a factory, which was interesting, and it also started on the 6th floor, apparently, which was also interesting. But other than that, I don't really have much to say. So I'm just kind of going through boring topics right now. There's also
Wasn't there also another drone strike
yeah, there was a
on
drone
the same building?
yeah, on the same building, on a different floor, I believe.
Yeah.
There are
The joke I've
theories.
heard. Yeah. The joke I've been hearing lately is, well, we've proved that it is possible to hit the same target twice with a drone. Which, it's darkly humorous.
Yeah, there are theories on what what the targets were. I haven't seen any actual evidence to support any of those theories. People are claiming that the building is used by like the FSB or something. I don't know if that's true. Do you know? Anyway, I'm not terribly interested in those drone attacks. At least I'm not interested in the target. I am interested in that they happen. I think it's cool and good that they happen. But that's for social reasons and not for military reasons. Like I don't think the military target matters.
There were, can you hear me? Sorry,
Yes.
I've had all kinds of issues. My apologies. It is my understanding that the Russian Agricultural Bank also has offices on that particular floor that was hit, which is kind of interesting to me. I'm not sure that that's particularly what was actually targeted, but an interesting note.
That's interesting. I would ask you a question like, do you know what floor they are on? And then I would say something like, because this floor was hit. But I don't think you know what floor they're on, and I definitely don't know what floor was hit. So there's not much I can add.
They are on, actually, yes, because Mr. Bond and I went and did a whole bunch of sorting out, mostly him. This was not today's attack. This was the last attack,
Okay.
Which apparently hit the 10th floor by a number of different accounts, and they are on the 10th floor.
Interesting.
Which like the building they're on, etc. And there are other offices, other units on that floor. But supposedly, according to all the accounts that we could find, they are on the 10th, and the 10th is what was hit.
Was this more recent one, the 16th? I remember it being 16, but I don't know if that's actually true.
I've spent all day trying to catch up at work and here, and I'm
It was
not
the
100% sure.
people are saying it was the 10th floor today. I don't know. Anyway, you could tell how much I don't pay attention to these drone attacks too carefully, honestly. But that is interesting. To me, there's Inside Russia is a YouTube channel, and the other day he was talking about the attacks on they're called Taganrog, in Russia, which is the city right here, or town, or whatever it is. And he was talking about he's from not that town, but he's from the Rostov area, and he has family members and close friends and colleagues, and just he knows tons of people in this area. This is like his home turf. So he'd called up people that he knew, that he's known all of his life, and he asked them what they thought about the missile strikes in their town or city or whatever it is, and none of them cared at all. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And that response it was shocking to him. It's not, I wouldn't say it's shocking to me. It's incredibly disappointing to me. The complete apathy of what is going on. And it makes me think that prolonged drone attacks might be the only way to break through the apathy. Because I think that this apathy is a weapon that not only Russia, but the Soviet Union has cultivated for decades. They've been trying to create apathy for the purposes of controlling the population. And I think breaking the apathy is a way of breaking the control over the people. And I think it's important for that reason that these attacks keep going over a long period of time. And it might not even work. But I think it's the most like realistic way to break through the apathy. Because the apathy is growing in Russia. They're caring less and less about their own lives and the lives of the people around them. And it's depressing, and I think is going to prolong the war unless someone does something about it. So for that reason, I think these drone attacks are interesting, but I don't actually care what the targets are or what's hit. And that's just my opinion on it.
Unless they start hitting power substations, I would respectfully, gently push back and say I think it's possible to become apathetic about drone strikes. Look, when I first was here, first one I went to hit in a bathroom, and I was not having it whatsoever. And I was astonished that so many people were like, this is just a thing that happens. Now, not so much, right? Like, I'm not exactly panicking here, as a lot of people have become not apathetic, but become not even indifferent. They sort of recognize it, but it's like, oh, that's a thing that's happening, right? That's why you end up with more and more videos of this stuff. It happens in Kharkiv during missile strikes. It happens in Donetsk during, strikes there. It's just sort of like, oh, these are the things that happen. You can acclimatize generally. However, when it's something that's like a short-term fear, okay, that's scary. That can inspire you to do something in that moment. I'm never coming back here. Like, I had, stuff blow up near me, and I was like, whoa, this is absolutely terrifying. I don't want to do this again. And then that moment fades and your concern fades. Long-term pressures, however, such as going without power, going without heat, that has much more of an impact. Frankly, I don't know a darn thing about the Moscow power grid or heating grid. I have concerns about Ukraine's power grid through this upcoming winter, especially if they keep throwing drones at it. But it would be interesting to see if Ukraine can return the favor in Moscow and say, hey, your lights are off. I know that there's some engineering hurdles they're going to have to deal with for their power plant, something to do with the turbines that I think you know more about than I do. And it would be interesting to see if there's a way to sort of return the favor. Even to say, okay, well, Belgrade, you have no lights. We're not hurting. We're not going out. We're not, throwing bombs at civilian houses, but in Belgrade, you have no lights. Or you have to go to, brownouts or something like that. Now, is that politically feasible? Is it economically feasible? Is it, the best use of munitions? I got no idea. Those are all questions for other people. But me sitting here pondering, I think that would probably be more effective at getting people in Russia concerned. If you start having to do brownouts across Moscow, okay, well, now this war is something that I have to deal with, and it's inconveniencing my ability to enjoy the bread and circuses that allow me to be apathetic. Versus, oh, there was a boom somewhere. Oh, I saw it on social media. That's terrible. On to the next TikTok. Versus, oh, I can't watch TikTok because I didn't charge my phone, and now I have to spend money to go get a big power bank, and my economic output has decreased. So that sucks too. Then that's driving it home into every citizen without, having to, quite frankly, resort to physical acts of terrorism to make it clear to those citizens that they are under attack. But that's just my personal opinion. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. From what I understand, Russia's issue with power plants is that they invested in very high efficiency power plants to save money. And also, it just logically makes sense to make high efficiency power plants. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that these high efficiency power plants require very high efficiency turbines. And there's only like 3 companies in the world that can make turbines that are efficient enough for their power plants. And I believe one of those companies, I think, it's either South Korean or Japanese, I can't remember. And the other one is German, and the other one is American. And like basically all 3 of those companies, or all 3 of those countries, are sanctioning Russia. So they have no realistic access to buying new turbines. But one issue is that they can maintain the turbines that they have through various means. One of which is that they have some of their contracts for maintenance are being honored during the war, which I wish were not the case, but they are being honored. And another way they can service them is by buying parts on the black market or through secondhand whatever. So they can maintain them in those 2 ways. But on the flip side, when the war started, Russia cut funding to all future development of power plants. So basically, all of the engineers who design and build power plants have permanently left Russia. The vast majority, not 100%, but most of them have left Russia. I think Russia is continuing to build like 2 or 3 power plants, and the companies building those plants are planning, from what I understand, they're planning to leave Russia as soon as those plants are constructed. And a lot of these companies have gone to neighboring countries, like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. I think some of them went to China. I think some of them went to like Armenia or whatever. So they all went to other countries, and I really doubt that those guys are ever going to go back to Russia, because they have a skilled profession where they can follow the money. And, if you are getting paid a whole bunch of money to live in a pretty nice place, why would you move? Like, it just comes down to just basic. It's like the basic facts of the matter. I don't think Russia is going to get those people back. So I think that their energy grid is more vulnerable than people think for that reason. So I don't know if Ukraine's ever going to attack the energy grid, but I think Russia would be vulnerable to those sorts of attacks. Like if you started taking out their turbines, you could create a problem.
It's an interesting thought experiment. I mean, if you have limited amounts of munitions, what's the best use for them? Where do you send them? Where do you not send them? I know there was something else that happened on the Kerch Bridge today where the traffic got stopped I did see something, misinformation. There was all this talk about like essentially huge anti-drone barriers being set up near the Kerch Bridge. That's not accurate. Those are set up in Sevastopol Harbor. The Kerch Bridge is quite long and setting up, and it also has much more shipping. So trying to set up some kind of like floating buoy system across the entire length, where there's also consistent naval traffic from east to west, and then I'm not going to say it's a non-starter, but it doesn't seem likely because of even if there's a risk of these maritime drones, that's probably not going anywhere. So on and so forth. But that was one thing I saw a bunch of people talking about, and while that doesn't seem to be accurate regarding the drone nets, there is increased use of them in Sevastopol, and something is happening that continues to unnerve the Russians on the Kerch Bridge, where I've heard everything down to like only one roadway is operating. I don't know if that's accurate. You guys probably know more, but that traffic was severely reduced in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think only one lane is working. So I think there were 4 lanes, I think, and now there's 1, from what I understand. Anyways, I think we should get to the news. So Exit. I have a question about the boat. Do you want to talk about the boat briefly? The boat thing?
We can definitely talk about it. I will preface it by saying we probably need more information before we can be sure of anything. But what question do you have?
Do you think a boat was attacked by smaller boats today?
It would not at all surprise me that there was USV attacks today. The weather was very conducive for those USV attacks. The ship that has reportedly been hit is the Sparta, or one of the Sparta group of ships, which is a bulk cargo ship, and has repeatedly transited between Russia and Syria, and has brought back weapons of all types, like so many times, like to the point where they weren't even hiding it going through the Bosphorus. They like literally had weapons parked on the deck that you could see from webcams. So it's definitely a military target. The other 2 ships that were out there are absolutely military targets because they're military ships. I am not going to give you an absolute yes or no until we see damage, because one too many times that has happened and people have been wrong. And they've said that ships have sunk when they haven't, or they've said that ships aren't sinking when they have, all of those types of things. I think we need to wait for more, but there's definitely, if you look at the ship tracking for the Sparta ship, it looks like it did have some slower areas of travel than you would expect. However,
so
I've
sometimes
too. Sorry, go ahead.
I've one really basic question. Roughly where would it have been hit? Like, roughly where was this?
So move your map up a bit.
Okay.
And it was southwest of Sevastopol.
Okay.
So down in the Black Sea.
So like here? Like, or down here?
Oh, I don't think the map's updating for me, so that's handy. Not your fault, definitely mine. My computer is having a minor panic attack today for some reason.
Okay, so it was southwest of Sevastopol. So I was gonna guess it's like here. Okay, so interesting, because I did not know. When you say something to me, when you say something happened in the Black Sea, my
Yeah.
brain just draws a circle around the Black Sea and says, there. And I just assume it's the entire Black Sea attacked the boat or ship.
Well,
That's just how my imagination works.
that's very fair. Without people like MT Anderson, who actually was able to find it on a satellite and post about it, I also often think that as well. Because when you say 343 kilometers southwest of Sevastopol to me, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna go draw on some maps and try and figure that out. But I mean, that could be a fairly large piece of Black Sea. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I wait for the other mapper people to pull out data and then I go with that.
Yeah,
Is how that works.
I map a lot of things, but I don't map boats. I also don't really map drones. These are like the two things I don't map. I map like almost everything else, but boats and drones I don't do.
I
So
think that's a wise choice on your part.
okay, so it's possible it could have been hit. We have no idea. It's probably much more likely it wasn't hit. I think it's safe to say that. It's more likely nothing happened than something happened. And
It's more likely that even if something happened, it probably didn't cause as much damage as people are hoping. Um, and so just like temper all of your expectations with that knowledge.
okay.
I don't know. I heard they sunk the entire Black Sea fleet tonight, and I refuse to be convinced otherwise. Extraordinary claims. What do they require? No evidence at all.
No evidence at all.
Okay. So I was given coordinates where apparently this happened. And I'm just going to type them in. And oops, that is not it. I think this is something we need to fix. I think this is a bug on the website. There it is. We did it. Apparently it was right there. Or somewhere about there. Or something like that. Anyways, so okay, so I have one last question for you, which is a different question. And I don't think you know the answer to this, so it might be unfair. But do you know if anything important was hit in Odessa tonight?
I saw reports that something was hit on the Danube River, which
Okay.
is technically I don't even know which oblast that is. I haven't
I think it's
heard
Odessa.
about. I think it is too. I haven't heard about Odessa proper yet.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if that happened because they kind of left it alone for a few days, and I think about 5 days, and that's about how long their targeting stuff takes. So it wouldn't surprise me that they were headed that way again.
Yep. Okay. So I think that got all the stuff that I don't really want to talk about out of the way. There were also explosions in Sebastopol today, which I know nothing about other than there was a picture of like a fiery cloud thing, which is it's ominous. But I honestly don't know what was hit. Supposedly the explosion occurred, or I don't even know if explosion's the right word, but the event happened in this like supposedly in this kind of military area where they store various sorts of things. So maybe something happened. I think we're gonna have to wait for like a high res satellite image or something. I'm sure one of those high res satellite image people will post something tomorrow or the next day or whenever they get a good image, and then we'll get a more complete story. But until then, all I can say is there's a fiery cloud thing near Sevastopol. So that's all of the not in the main battlefield news, I think, unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
There are high res images of that out already.
Oh, there
MT
are?
Anderson
That's
did
cool.
some.
I didn't see it. What was it? Did you? What happened?
Did it an hour ago.
Okay.
However, I don't know that we for sure know exactly what we're looking at yet.
Okay.
And so people are trying to figure that out. That
Alright,
part I know.
Well, good luck. I'm glad they got the image so fast, because you never know how long it's going to take you to get an image, because the satellite might just not be looking at it, or it might be cloudy, or there's so many reasons you might not be able to get one right away. So that's cool that they got one
Well,
that fast.
turns out he's been looking at that particular location since January of 23, according to his post. And July of 23, he has an image of it. So it seems like it may have been a target for quite some time.
Interesting. Regarding, we have a question about the Russian economy. I don't want to talk about the Russian economy today. I just want to stay away from that topic right now. Okay, so on this little peninsula, which is like in the south of Kherson, I can't remember the name of the peninsula. It doesn't really matter. This isn't even a peninsula, whatever this is called. Russia has been using this island. I think it's an island, whatever this is. They've been using this whole area as a military training base, and a lot of people are upset for a lot of different reasons. This was a environmental protected zone, because this is where, like, what are they called, the Black Sea dolphins or whatever, that I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, the little dolphin thingies, they use this area to, like, reproduce and make baby dolphins. So Russia's been basically just killing tons of dolphins here constantly, and a lot of people are very upset for that reason, and other reasons that they just don't want Russia in Ukraine at all, let alone this really fragile ecosystem. But anyways, I don't know if this happened today, but the video came out today of Ukraine dropping a whole bunch of gimlers, which I called HIMARS just to annoy people. But they dropped a bunch of gimlers all over this cape, or whatever it's called. I don't know water words very well, but they blew up all these like training areas. And this image in particular was interesting because in the video you can see that this little patch of forest here, these little trees, are just chock full of Russians kind of walking around. You can kind of see there's like a truck right here, and there's a truck there, and a truck here, and piles of garbage and whatever, the typical Russian things. And then a Gimler hit and exploded everything. So that was kind of interesting to see this event. So they fired 5 Gimlers here, and these are roughly all the areas that they hit. Yeah, so that's kind of the deep strike news for today. And beyond that, I don't really have any more deep strike news. So I can get to frontline news now, which is more what I focus on in general. So in the Chernihiv area, which I'm not sure exactly what they mean by Chernihiv area. I assume here, basically, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, in the Chernihiv area, last night, Russia tried to penetrate into Ukraine using a reconnaissance group, which was identified and driven off back into wherever they came from.
Can I pause you for a second? So
yes,
what we see in the stream that you're showing us is totally different from what we're showing in the YouTube. So I wanted, for you to correct it so we can follow you.
Okay.
I think you're on Google Earth right now.
Okay, I can fix that. Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Thank you, Constantine. I thought that was just me, and I was trying.
I just clicked the wrong window when I clicked share. There.
Yeah, I was looking for dolphins, and you were showing me the map, and I was like, "This is not the place where dolphins are."
Well, it might have been where the dolphins were.
Well, the dolphin, you were not pointing at the estuaries. Definitely, you were pointing to something else.
Okay. Let's just. Okay, you know what? At least it was pointed somewhat at water the whole time.
You were pointing to Militopol.
Yeah. I don't know. At least there was water. It's not like the map was over here. It could have been worse. Anyways, so in Chernihiv, they tried to penetrate. So anyway, it's not a big deal. It was just kind of interesting that this happened. Furthermore, on the border of Kharkiv, a bunch of Katarovites they got into a shooting battle with a tree, and I think the tree won. I'm not entirely sure, but they were shooting the tree with these like little rocket grenade things, and that was right here. They got into just an everyday shooting battle of a tree. It's something that Katarovs do really often. You would be amazed at how often they get into battles with trees. But yeah, the trees typically win. Not always, but usually. So getting into this kind of Kupiansk area. Now near Senkivka, from what I understand, Ukraine did a minor, I want to stress minor, counterattack around Senkivka towards Lyman Pershyi. And from what I understand, they cleared some of this forested area between the two towns. I don't think Ukraine captured any ground. I don't think the front line changed, but they kind of pushed in, cleared out some, and then pulled back out and kind of reestablished a gray area. That's how it was described to me earlier today. So beyond that, I don't really have much news from the rest of this area. Constantine, have you heard anything about like the Kuzemivka area?
Yeah, I did.
That doesn't sound good.
We had some losses there. I can show you. I can share a video with you if you want.
Okay.
It's not been yet published. Give me 1 second. Please.
It's not like bloody or anything, is it?
No, it's not. It's equipment. It's equipment.
Okay.
And weapons. Give me 1 second. I'll show it to you. I'll share it with you in Telegram.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. It's unfortunately our losses. They're not terrible, but quite unpleasant, I would say.
Okay. So was this north of Novoselivska?
South.
South? Okay. Because from what I've heard, the primary attack is to the north. I don't know if that's actually true. It's what everybody's saying, and I haven't seen any actual evidence of that. But they're claiming that the primary attack is to the north, towards this highway.
They will not be successful there. I will tell you this. If it happens, they will not be successful. So, can you give me your hand, Alech? What is your? I cannot find. You have your.
I don't want to give out my handle.
Well,
I don't even remember my handle, to be honest.
Your ID. It's just your right. Your visible name, display name. So if you just tell me, you just. Oh, I found you. Yeah.
Okay. It's anonymous for a reason, Constantine.
Well, it's not your it is.
Okay. I see it. Oh, that's not good.
What?
I'm just Okay.
It's only 30 seconds. There is only equipment. There are no bodies, no blood, or anything like that.
Okay. I think in typical Telegram fashion, I have to like wait a few minutes to download it and view it.
Yeah, it's like 3 gigabytes. It's like 1 gigabyte for 30 seconds because that's from the drone, not from the
Yep.
not compressed, not.
Okay. So yeah.
And they
So
have that one that I cannot show you on in here.
yeah.
Because you have quite a bit of people getting smashed.
Yeah. So but yeah, I just want to say that on the map now there is in for every event, or not for every event, for like almost every event, I post there's a brief description in the title. So there's a title, there is an image, and there is a link. This link sometimes is also a description, so maybe I can find one that is a description. Why? So, example, this isn't a description. The description is the timestamp in the video. So if you click the link, you can watch a video. And so yeah, I just want to state that this it's actually we've a lot of work adding all of these links and stuff to the map. It's actually kind of obnoxious, to be honest. But I think it's useful in the long run. So no matter how obnoxious it is, I do it anyway. And I'm trying to buy time for this video to load. Okay, I think it's
I'm
loaded.
pretty sure you can send a video on Telegram and compress it in the settings because I've done that before.
Yeah,
I'm fairly confident that's a thing.
this was compressed. It just takes a minute to load in Telegram.
Right, but like I think you can take it so instead of it being like 1080p, you can send it in like 480p or whatever and get it down to like 10 megabytes.
So this was an M113 with a 50 cal on top. That flipped upside down and has a hole in the bottom, so that's not good. I don't know what this is. Oops, wrong button. Let me go back to that. That looks like a tank.
It's a Russian tank with a
Russian
mine
tank.
roll that was destroyed there.
Okay, and there's another tank here. And is that another tank?
Yeah, that's where Russian attack happened, and we stopped it quite some time ago.
Okay.
It's north. It's north of. North of whatever Novosibirsk. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if there's any other little nuggets I can see in the video. There's a little 50 cal. There's a mine right there. It's not good. Is there anything to the right that we can find? Sorry, this is just what I do whenever I see a video. I want to get everything out of the video whenever I see it. There's like, oops.
But you can do it afterwards. You have to
I know, but it's just the habit at this point. Okay, so you're saying this was south.
just
It's like around here.
you
I
just
assume.
told exactly where it happened.
Okay. All right.
That T-shaped intersection.
Okay. That makes sense. The anyways, so that's what's going on around here. Would you describe the fighting as heavy or light?
I would say it's light compared to what we see, for example, in the south, or what we saw in like in Bakhmut. This is light, but
Yeah.
still it's you must understand that if the fighting is light, it does not mean that it's one person shooting at each other. There are still like large brigade size formations there fighting, and it's for those people who are there, it's the same.
Yeah. Now, the area where Russia had their big their offensive, I guess you would call it. It seems that it's basically failed, from what I can tell. Ukraine is apparently retaking a bunch of, if not all of the towns that they've lost. I don't know about the Zherebianky. I don't know who currently controls it. I know Ukrainians claim that they have taken it back. I have it as a gray area still. I'm not entirely sure. Nadia, Ukraine has definitely taken back, and Zherebianky, I believe, is still Russian controlled. Although it's not even there's not even a structure there. I don't think there's a single man-made structure there. It's like a pile. It's just like a forest. If you zoom in, there's no houses. There's no like industry. It's just some trees. So apparently Russia controls that. But yeah. So this little offensive that they had appears to have gone nowhere. Ukraine counterattacked at some point, and most likely have pushed Russia back most of the way. I have heard rumors that Russia is building up forces for a second major push. I don't know if that's actually true. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see what happens there. And in addition to that, this forested area south of Dubrova and Kremmina, this whole forested area is a pretty hot combat area, pretty heavy shelling and constant fighting. But there are no changes that I know of. Yesterday, in Bilohorivka, there was a video of a man in his underwear shooting a rocket, which was an amusing video to me. I thought it was very funny. But it was actually map changing in a way that I was not expecting a man in his underwear to change the map, but he did, because he shot his rocket from right here at this building right there. And previously, I didn't think Ukraine was actually in this position, so I drew Ukraine in this position, which is interesting. Did you ever think a man in his underwear would change the map, Constantine?
He's the driver here. I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, hey, look, this is an area where Google messed up my map. I'll have to go fix that. Oh, thanks, Google. Anyways, so yeah, I have no further news from this kind of north area. Again, around this northern part of Bakhmut, I have no particular information. Constantine, do you have any info from this northern area of Bakhmut?
I cannot share it. Yeah. I actually have.
I just mean general information.
Generally, I don't know. My information generally, it's nothing has changed.
Okay, that's pretty much what I assume. I've heard. Well, there's so many rumors that Ukraine is attacking Yehidna. I've seen no evidence of this. Every time satellite imagery comes out, I look for evidence. I see none. I've seen no videos, no photographs, nothing of Ukraine attacking Yehidna, which isn't to say that they're not attacking Yehidna. But I just have zero evidence of it. I can't find anything, and I've been actively searching. But anyways, there's so many rumors that they are, and I've heard that the attack towards Zherebianky has basically more or less stopped, and that they have pivoted to attack Yehidna, although I see zero evidence of that. I believe there's also some action towards Dubovo-Vasilivka. But I don't see much evidence of that either. There were some drone videos, etc. But I haven't seen troop movement type videos or changes in territorial control or anything along those lines. Although maybe they will come out in the future. Now, for the area south of Bakhmut, I am not 100% certain, but I am pretty sure that Ukraine has taken control of this little forest strip, which is along this railway, which is just north of Klischiivka. Now, was it the 92nd who attacked here, Constantine? I think it was the 92nd. Not entirely sure.
It was BTR 4s. Yeah, it was
Yes.
92nd first. Yeah, it was 92nd.
Yeah, so we had a video of the 92nd attacking here. They were attacking like this kind of more southern part of it, and they lost, I think, 2 or 3 BTRs. And in the video, it wasn't obvious that the 92nd was doing well. I'll put it that way. They lost vehicles.
I don't agree with you. It's actually a very complex assault. I watched it many times. I spoke with people who were in there. They suffered losses, but it was not as terrible as people think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, in watching that video, it wasn't obvious that they succeeded. But
they did not in that specific attack. They did not succeed. But there is some bit good news gonna come soon. I hope from there. But what that video shows that they actually know what they're doing. You know, it's just not every attack is successful. If you watch it carefully, you have you can analyze the BTRs moving back and forwards when they're shooting. They are positioning themselves. You can see quick evacuation there. And even though they did not manage to did not get instant success, and they lost some of the vehicles, they probably dealt quite big of a damage to them. And I would say that it's quite a complex operation. And first, this was a first probe that was not completely successful, but as an assault operation is ongoing, I can tell you that there is success in that area right now.
Yep. So yesterday, Russia published videos depicting them Russian artillery heavily shelling this location, and it wasn't just where that original assault was. They were shelling this entire area, basically all the way down to the train tracks, which is why I marked it as I think this is Ukrainian controlled. Maybe I'm premature. I don't know, but when I see this entire forest getting hit by Russian shelling simultaneously, it makes me think that there aren't Russians there. Especially in conjunction with known active Ukrainian assaults. So anyways, that's the way I marked it. Other people can disagree with me. But anyways, in Klischiivka, I think it's still mostly contested. I haven't seen any actual evidence of Ukraine capturing the town or anything like that. When you look at satellite imagery, this whole southern portion from basically this kind of line, all this down is just absolutely destroyed by artillery over the past 3 or 4 days, whereas this kind of northern part has not been shelled anywhere near as much. So it seems, I assume that Ukraine is mostly in the southern part and Russia is mostly in this northern part. But I think the town is probably entirely contested at this point. Although I imagine it won't be contested for long. I imagine that Russia will eventually just pull out. I think logically pulling back to the train tracks would be your first choice. I would think. Anyways, the same is pretty much true for Avdiivka, where we had satellite imagery today of super heavy shelling, getting closer and closer to Avdiivka in both of these kind of parallel forest strips, which is interesting to see. Basically, the shelling that we can observe on the satellite imagery is steadily moving east. You can make of that what you will. I assume that means that Ukraine is advancing, but every time we get a satellite pass, the shelling is further east. Regarding Klischiivka and Urozhaine, I have no particular news other than I can say on the imagery today there was a large fire along the canal in this area, which was brand new as of today. So this fire is right along the canal here. I don't know what that fire means. It's just an interesting thing to point out. Similarly, there's super heavy shelling in this kind of corner just south of Zherebianky. There's been really heavy shelling here for a long time, and we know it's Russian shelling because Russia continuously posts video of them shelling this area, so it's not Ukrainian shelling. So yeah, that's kind of all I can say about that. Now moving on south to the Avdiivka area. I have no particular news of this northern area, although I hear that news is likely to come out soon. Mostly bad news, in that Russia has advanced. I just don't have direct evidence of what their advance was or when it was, for that matter. I updated the map today of Russian control north of Vodiana and south of Sevierna. This was based on Ukrainian shelling with cluster munitions along this forest strip. Now getting south, Nevelske and Pervomaiske. I talked last time about Ukraine's attack at east out of Nevelske. Now, I don't know if this was a successful attack. All the evidence we have is that it probably wasn't successful because all the evidence we have consists of Ukrainian vehicles exploding, although that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But yeah, they are apparently continuing to attack to the east out of the town. Now, other than that, I have no news in Marinka or any of these other towns, all the way down to Pavlivka. No news in this whole corner that I know of. Apparently, there's one minor thing. Apparently, Ukraine attacked towards Solodki, and they may have taken some ground here, although I haven't seen proof of it. So, but other than that, I have no news.
Can I ask a random question?
Yeah.
That you made me think of? Last year in the fall, when everything starts, well, late summer, when everything starts to dry out, and there was big fires last year because there's just a whole bunch of dry grass all around. Did those fires move through the forested areas as well, or were they exclusive to like the fields?
They moved. Yeah, the forests. I think the forests burn even better than the fields do.
That adds a whole new dimension in the next couple of weeks that should be coming up then.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the fire maps on like firms, I don't even look at them anymore because like Ukraine is just entirely on fire. Um, but yeah, it's gonna get wild. In the south, it's drying out so fast since the reservoir disappeared.
Right.
It's not good. Um,
Is that advantageous or a challenge or all of the above?
I don't know how much forest strips burn. I'm not. I don't think they like the forest strip will burn. It's more that like the forests burn. Like the bigger like this little forest right here. It will probably have fires all over it. They probably already does, to be honest. Whereas like these little strips, I don't think these strips burn so much. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't really remember cases of forest strips catching fire. They typically maybe like the edges, like on the like where the grass meets the forest, like a grass fire could make a tree catch fire. But I mostly it's the forests themselves that burn. So like for example, the area around Kremmina or well now like the forest is completely gone because of like artillery and fires and everything, but these forests like even when there wasn't fighting here were constantly on fire. Um, like and like all of these forests in like Kharkiv, if you go back to last year, these were all on fire all the time. Whether Ukraine or Russia were shooting or not, they just catch fire all the time. Um, so it's kind of part of the natural cycle for these things to catch fire. I really don't know about the forest strips though. Like when it's just like a few little trees next to each other. I don't know if those burn so much. Because I assume it's the fallen dead trees burning.
Well, but even just the grass and the cover, like bushes and things like that being gone, presumably makes it a little bit harder for infantry.
I imagine so, yeah. The like the area where am I? North of like Robotyne is this whole area which used to be like there's some trees and also tons of like bushes, like low plants. Um, this is all just burned away. All the trees are destroyed by artillery. All the plants like caught fire and went away. So this is just like a scorched like a moonscape at this point. Um, and like this whole area where these kind of bushes used to be is like a trench line, and I believe this is also like a trench line that the I think the Russians built some of it, and I think Ukraine built some of it. So this is all like just trenches and scorched nothing at this point. So um, probably a lot of this is going to be like that. Like everywhere near the front line is probably going to end up in that sort of just burnt out husk of what used to be a normal place. Like south of Staromayorski, these all these forests have been shot away, and a lot of the grassland has caught fire and burned away. So this is all getting kind of barren as well. This would be southwest of Staromayorski, and we're gonna see this kind of destruction move ever and ever further south as Ukraine advances. See, I have a little eyeball here, showing kind of some of this destruction here. So you see that like this kind of grass kind of it didn't necessarily burn all the way, but there are kind of scorch marks, and you see all these little like craters from artillery, and a lot of these trees are getting eaten up. So like this intersection here, and especially this intersection here, is getting heavily shelled right now. I assume this is Ukrainian shelling in both cases. Now, the trees even further east, like this line here and this line here and this line here, these two anyway, are completely gone. They've been shelled to nothing, and most of this kind of perpendicular one is also shelled to nothing. It's really only kind of this side that still exists. So that's kind of an interesting development going on at the moment.
Thanks.
Okay, so speaking of Staromayorsky, the Russians are claiming that Ukraine is trying to attack east out of Staromayorsky towards Urozhaine, and in doing so, they first have to get rid of minefields that Russia had built along kind of this river thing here. So apparently, this is entirely coming from Russian sources at this point, but the Russians are claiming that Ukraine is working on getting rid of this minefield so that they can directly attack into Urozhaine. And at the same time, Ukraine is kind of claiming the opposite. Ukraine is saying that Russia is getting rid of the minefield and attacking Staromayorsky. So, so it's kind of an interesting thing. They're both kind of claiming the other side is doing something. Or they're both claiming that the other side is doing the same thing, I should say. But yeah, there's a lot of helicopter attacks going on here. Some of which we have video for, some of which we don't. I can't remember which ones we have video for. Oh yeah, this is a video of a helicopter attack. I think I can show this one actually. So this is kind of a propaganda video, but it shows a these are the guided missiles on the right side. The helicopter is carrying 4 of them, plus some rockets and stuff. So that's the little missile it shoots out, and this is the guidance that they have, which is this guidance is so terrible. I have no clue what they're even shooting, but oh boy, what happens? Oops, I don't know how that happens. That was weird. But this little black smudge is apparently an enemy, maybe. Maybe I have no clue what it is. But they shot a missile at it, and this is them guiding the missile in. I have no clue how they target with this thing. It is awful. I don't know if this is actually what they see, because if this is what they see, I genuinely don't know how they even find targets. But that's their little helicopter. That's I don't know. But anyways, that's kind of that. I don't know what else to say. Now, I already kind of talked about this this kind of forest strip thing going on. Now, I looked for evidence today in the satellite imagery of whether Ukraine had advanced, or if anything had changed in this area right where we're looking at right here, and I could not find any evidence of change anywhere here, which was somewhat disappointing. The only real change I could find is this little eyeball there, but I was very curious to see if there was obvious signs of shelling here or fire or anything. I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if that means that the fighting is actually going on further south, but there's no evidence of fighting down there either. I don't know. It seems that nothing's going on, from what I could tell. So this would be the area south of Rivnapil and all around Priutny. So like this whole area just has a whole bunch of nothing going on. Similarly, I didn't see any evidence of anything going on along this whole front, all the way around, just a whole bunches of nothing. and getting down to Robotyne, from what I can tell, there is an operational pause. That's I don't know how else to describe it. I see no evidence of too much going on. I shouldn't say no evidence, because there was a little tiny shred of evidence that when on the satellite imagery, when you look at this forest strip, um, this whole northern part is completely demolished until you get around here-ish, and then it's slightly less destroyed further south. Um, I don't know really. I don't really know what to make of that, but there is a not very clear, although somewhat visible, line roughly here-ish, where everything north of it is completely 100% destroyed, and the thing south of it, I would say, is like 75% destroyed. Um, and this parallel tree line is somewhat similar, and it's less clear what's going on, but it follows the same sort of pattern, where roughly around here, it becomes less destroyed to the south and more destroyed to the north, although it's not as clear as going on. So there is an interpretation of this that Ukraine is moving infantry down these forest strips, and and as they've moved down, they've been shelled. That's possible. I don't know if that's actually true, but it's an interpretation. Otherwise, I don't really understand how to explain the level of destruction along these forest strips, unless perhaps I don't. Maybe if Russia tried to push up and Ukraine pushed them back with artillery or something like that, to see this level of destruction only along the forest strips. I assume it means infantry was pushing down. I know, Constantine, what do you think about that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's a tactic that is unfortunately will make you like if you use more infantry than mechanized forces, you will deplete your ammo much faster, and I mean artillery ammo like 155. And this is what not so great about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how else to interpret it other than it's infantry moving. Unless Russia is just shooting at trees all day. Maybe Russia is just shooting at these trees constantly just for fun. What do you think?
So can you show me where that failed attack by Ukraine was here?
It was right here. That
Yeah,
failed attack
so
was right there.
this is what is happening right now. This has been happening since that attack. Our infantry has been moving in after the mechanized forces uh, failed there. Well, I cannot say completely failed because the attack itself has failed, but it allowed this move of the forces through this forest strips. What is the distance here of the long, like from where attack happened to?
2 kilometers.
That's a lot to walk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
usually
and it seems
should be-
that the total destruction, it goes so it goes about like 1.5 kilometers. There's like a half kilometer left. Let me open up that image so I can show you what I'm talking about. So I'll show instead of describe. How about that? It's gonna take me a minute to load because the website's very slow. But I'll work on that. But yeah, that attack is very unfortunate. It's just very unfortunate. But here it loaded faster than I thought. So this is what I mean by this. There's really heavy destruction, and then there appears to be, and it's not easier to see it this way. I don't want to say it's easier, but it's when you compare the days together, you could see that there's kind of a section where there's not as much change, whereas further north that there's more change. It's very subtle to see, but it's if you flick it back and forth enough, you can see it. I promise. I'm not crazy. Um, but it seems to be like somewhere around here is where the kind of the line stops. I'll even go back another day where it's clearer, although it's further back in time, which is annoying. Where you can kind of flick back and forth. You could, but comparing what is that, 4 days ago to today is a really heavy destruction. You can see. Anyways, okay, so we have some super chats. The first super chat is thank you for providing a detailed understanding. A listen from Alaska. Many people here appreciate your work. Thank you. I'm glad you find it useful. The second one is fascinating insights. Thank you. Yeah. So, one thing I do want to point out, because it came up today. I know this was a really popular talking point today in kind of Russian circles, and I think it's just important to look at this in a 3D context, because the 3D element is actually super important. So this forest strip is the one that we're talking about. This is where Ukraine had their failed attack. Now, if you look at the terrain here, you see that Russia is on the hill overlooking this whole attack vector. And they can, Russia has, we know for a fact that they have ATGM positions set up roughly here. I guess maybe like roughly here, they have ATGM positions set up that can overlook this forest strip thing that Ukraine attacked along. They almost certainly have ATGM positions set up along this forest strip as well, which is parallel to the one that Ukraine attacked on. And they very likely have various weapon systems set up along these positions as well. So Ukraine was attacking in a low ground where Russia has easy line of sight. I think that's how I would describe it. It's easy line of sight to what Ukraine had to move through. You can see by the terrain why Ukraine ran into so many problems. Especially because it seems to me, when I watch the video, I see that, and I might be wrong, maybe you have a different opinion, but I saw Ukraine drive down with minimal, if any, resistance. And once they hit roughly around this position, Russia started shooting at them with everything. That's what I saw. Do you agree with that, Constantine? That they were mostly unopposed until they got around here?
No, I don't. I think it was a bit different vector. But I mean, they did not drive all across this. We went from the start. They made a turn there. They used this. There is a feature there. If you watch the video, there is an actual feature, and where. I don't have the map in front of my face, but there is an actual feature that we used to hide, and only after we turn around that we started getting the shell. And
okay. But anyways, so
let me rewatch it. And you got me by surprise. We have to video side by side to understand it.
yeah, that would be probably a good idea. I don't have the video handy. But anyways, that's not even, it's not really my point. My point, that the only point that I want to make right now is that this attack was on the low ground. And people are claiming wrongly that everywhere Ukraine attacks is low ground. But I just want to point out that there is another avenue of attack that Ukraine isn't actively using, from what I can tell. I don't fully understand why they're not, But there is another avenue of attack from the northwest, um, where Ukraine would be attacking on more or less even ground. Although, to be fair, um, there is high ground to the west of that too. So, but anyways, that is purely my point here, is that Ukraine doesn't have to attack on the low ground. They can attack on even ground, given that the Kopani would be the high ground of that attack. Although Ukraine could also attack that on relatively even ground as well. Um, so my only point here, and I'm not saying this is realistic or even a good idea. I'm only saying that there is a different way to attack. And I'm not second guessing or saying what they're doing is right or wrong, or if the other way is better. I'm merely stating that there is a different way to go about this. They could be coming from like Sherbaki towards Zherebianky and Kopani, and that is in a different avenue of attack. Um, what's the phrase? There's more than one way to skin a cat. So anyways, so that's really my only point. I don't so much want to get into an analysis of this particular attack. I merely want to say that there's a different avenue of attack that is possible. I don't know. It might be a terrible idea to try this. It might be even worse. It might be even more defended. I don't actually know. I'm just saying that there's a different way.
And we don't know if it have not been tried yet. No, maybe we tried it.
I don't know of major attacks, but I do know that Ukraine has attacked in this area, which is south of Avdiivka. I do know that they have attacked here, and they have taken ground here. It was not very much ground. I don't want to. It was like maybe 200 meters or something. They have attacked and taken ground here. But I don't. I think that was a very small force that did that, like a battalion or less that did that. I don't know of any major attack here, like a brigade level attack or anything like that. I don't know of anything of that scale going on in this area. Okay. And thank you for the super chats, guys. Thank you. They're compliments. Great work. I appreciate it. And I always appreciate your reports. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Now, there's one more position that I'd like to talk about today. And it is right here. It is south of Kamianski and north of Zherebianky. And it is this position, which is a creek, or I'm bad at water words. Never come to me for water words. I think this is a creek, whatever this is. It is a little tiny bit of water that feeds into this river. I think that's called a creek. Anyways, so it appears that Ukraine is moving into this position. Now, I don't know how they're moving into this position. There's two possible ways that they could do it. The first way, which I think is the most likely way, is that they are climbing this hill here and then moving down the other side into this creek or whatever it's called. And the reason I say this is the most likely is because there is Russian shelling following this path. So there's like a line of heavy shelling that like is right along this road. The other way that they could do this is by kind of moving up the creek this way through this position that they just recently, I don't know if captured is the right word, they kind of seized it. It used to be a gray area for the most part, and Ukraine has recently seized it. So they could be moving up this way into this position. But either way, whether they're going one way or the other, they ended up roughly right here at this kind of intersection of everything. Now, and Russia is shelling them with artillery in this position right here, and as a result, there's obvious damage to this whole kind of surrounding area. There have been fires, grass fires along not only these two fields, but also this field and along this tree line and along that tree line. The trees along this tree line are also being damaged, along with this whole kind of tree line here is also being damaged, and this tree line here is getting pretty damaged as well. So now this is pretty interesting to me. It's this advance along this route has been obviously visible on satellite imagery for I want to say about 2 weeks, where we have seen a line of artillery shelling. It first started around like here, and then it went to like there, and then like here, and now we see it over here. So we can see this kind of steady advance up this little hill here, and now it appears that Ukraine might be in this. I'm going to keep calling it a creek. Creek might be the wrong word, but I'm going to keep calling it a creek. And yeah. Now, obviously, they have to climb another hill and get into this kind of forest strip. And then once they're there, they would be kind of on even ground with Russian forces. There is, if you are very liberal in the way you interpret things, there is some minor evidence that Ukraine has already pushed up to this forest strip. I think that's probably a little too rich for me to make that assumption. So what I've drawn on the map, I think, is pretty conservative in that they control this kind of rear part where everything advanced from there is a gray area. And I have absolutely no clue where the Russian line is anymore in this area. So now to talk about Zherebianky, there is a trench line here which Russia has abandoned, and they regularly booby trap. Now, unfortunately, Ukraine attacked this booby trapped trench, and they took really bad casualties. There was a video of this. There is a second trench line right behind it, which is where Russia is actually defending. And then there's the town behind that. There might even be a third trench line. I'm not entirely sure. But these two front trenches, Ukraine tried assaulting and captured. They tried to capture these, but it just didn't work. They took a lot of casualties, and they kind of gave up on that. And now they're kind of trying to move around the northern side of this town, moving up this little creek now. So, and in addition to that, there are evidences of Ukrainian forces moving down this forest strip and also this forest strip, although I don't know what the result of that was, whether they actually took ground or if they were beaten back or what happened there. But we do have video of them attempting that. A ravine. Maybe the word is a ravine. I'm really bad at water words. I typically stay away from water as much as I possibly can. So we have a super chat for you, Constantine. That the person asks, he said, or she, that they saw a clip of the 15th Brigade, and they looked less professional than other groups. Do you have any comments on that?
I have not seen the flip, so I honestly cannot absolutely
Well,
comment on.
what do you
Uh,
think of the 15th Brigade?
It's an okay brigade. It's actually there for to substitute another brigade that failed. And of course, you must understand that this is National Guard. These are not Ukrainian armed forces brigades. They have a bit different. They're a bit lighter than everyone else, than other brigades, and they have, of course, a bit different training and experience. That's
The
why,
the other brigade was the 33rd, I think, right?
yeah.
I do know that the 15th have tanks because they post videos of them operating tanks. So I do know they have tanks. In
Yeah,
fact,
they have should have a company of tanks instead of battalion, which is usual for the Ukrainian mechanized brigade, and also they have less howitzers. They have usually 122 millimeters,
yeah,
but right now some got stars, which is 152. But
yeah,
they're so it's mostly.
we've seen them using recoilless rifles as artillery. There's a lot of videos of that.
And by recoilless rifles, exactly what do you mean? SPGs?
No, a recoilless rifle, like 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 the gun. I don't know what else to say. It's a recoilless rifle.
I don't know it's recoilless rifle. I know SPGs, but
No,
I don't
it's the
follow
it's
the.
the rifle that doesn't have like a back, so like the jet kind of comes out the back. Like,
Can you
anyways,
give me? Can you give me the model of this?
I don't know. I have no
Those are
idea
usually
what model.
RPGs and other analogs, like Carl Gustav or SPG.
Well, a Carl Gustav is a type of recoilless rifle. I
Yeah. So SPG, you've probably seen them use SPGs
okay.
as artillery.
Anyways,
Yeah, everyone uses them as artillery right now. We have ballistic calculators to point them, so they are, and we have some. They have like shrapnel rounds. They have HE rounds, and some use them quite often for indirect fire. The effect of that is not always.
it's not great. It's not great, but
I mean, if you hit, it's great, but it's not
well,
a
the
precision.
issue is that you could only shoot one shot at a time. That's really the issue I see. So like
It's more of a suppression weapon. No,
yeah,
you can reload it pretty fast. Actually, you can fire like 3-4 rounds per minute if you really train.
yeah. For example, this is a video of a recoilless rifle hitting. All of these are videos of the recoilless rifle. All these hits. That's why in these videos there's only one shell landing at a time because it's a recoilless rifle, and you see the explosion is there. So it took me a long time to understand why these videos have one shell landing in each video. Um, but I eventually learned it's a recoilless rifle. That's why. Anyways, so all those videos are in Novopokrovka. So the 15th Brigade is operating kind of in this area. We've seen the 15th Brigade post videos from right here. There was a viral video of the 15th Brigade where they had a tank with like mine roller things driving like roughly here. I think it was driving like this, and it hit a mine, and the mine exploded, and the Russians posted a video of the tank exploding from the mine, and they said, "Haha, we killed the tank." And then Ukraine published a video of the whole video where the tank just kept going because it hit the mine roller. So anyway, that was a viral video that people may have seen, but that was the 15th Brigade, and it happened right there. They also are fighting kind of over here. I'm not sure exactly where the front line is for the 15th Brigade. This whole area is kind of a big unknown to me. Waiting for more information, hopefully in the form of videos at some point. But yeah, when we mention the 15th Brigade, this is their area operation. Whereas the 47th are like here, and the 65th are like over here. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say. That's about it. I have no news from this whole Dnipro River area. Ukraine blew up an ammo cache, which is interesting, I guess. Russia blew up a hospital, and they also blew up a Iris-T decoy. And Ukraine had a helicopter get shot down, which was unfortunate. So yeah, that's kind of all the news that I have. There's one last thing I could show, I guess, if I can find it. Give me a second. These are the losses that I could find today. This is all of it. Oops. Anyway, these are all the losses I could find today. You can see this is ordered by, I don't know if you can read this on the stream, if it's high enough quality, but you can see most of the losses were Ukrainian, unfortunately. Russia lost a whole bunch of infantry fighting vehicles, and so did Ukraine. But anyways, I tweeted out these losses today, so you can look at that in maybe a higher quality image. I didn't tweet out the links because it doesn't make sense to tweet out a photograph of links. But anyways, I do have the links to all of these destroyed vehicles. I'm not really sure how to distribute this information because I don't really want to share the spreadsheet. Maybe I'll make another spreadsheet for sharing with people. But anyway, yeah, that's just the last thing I wanted to say. So that's kind of it. Constantine, do you have anything you want to say before we end?
No, I don't have much to add. Sorry, I was not watching the news yesterday or today, so I was useless here. So
it's okay. To be honest, I have read all of the news over the past 2 days, and not much happened. I could have not read it and not missed much, to be honest. But yeah, the way that I would describe what's going on is an operational pause. I think the next few days, maybe today, because it's really hard to get information from today. You know what I mean? I often get information 1, 2, 3 days behind the news or behind real time. Usually, not always. Sometimes I get it in real time. But anyway, generally speaking, it's behind real time. So the news that I've had over the past few days has been an operational pause. Of course, it was kind of rainy and bad for the past few days. And now it is clearing up. Or I think today was kind of a nice day. So anyways, I expect more things to happen during the course of this week than occurred over the weekend. So anyways, I'll be back on Friday with potentially I don't know who will be there on Friday with me. Somebody probably will be, and I'll see you then. And thank you to everyone who watched and listened. And I hope you found it valuable. And I'll see you later.